Hello everybody, my name is Kyle929, welcome back to another video. Today in this one it's going to be another deck profile video, and in this one it's going to be my first Genesis deck profile video for the channel, and in this one it's going to be pure Mitsurugi in Genesis format. Yes, even though there is a lot of hits to this deck, as in Ritual being at 60 and Mitsurugi Prayers also being at 60. Turns out the deck only really needs one Ritual. Yes, Prayers does hurt not having, but it's more just a consistency thing at the end of the day, so you kind of can replace it with things like Manju, which I'm currently playing right now, and kind of still get away with it, right? Because as long as you can get to the end field of Habakiri Murakumo, or at least just get to Murakumo on field, and get to the loop with someone like Magatama, you're still in a really good position. So yeah, I have played this. I played this on my stream I did last week, when I played Genesis format for the first time. This is something I realized like immediately too. I was like, man, even though Ritual, yes, is at 60, and yes, we're playing pre-preps, which also are at 10, so that takes up 90% of your points right then and there, it's still pretty good, because overall, Mitsurugi is just a board breaker deck anyway, so you don't necessarily need to run like a shit ton of non-engine that's like pointed or something like that, so you can get away with things like Enemy Controller, which doesn't have points but also gels well because this tributes a monster to do stuff, which can kind of play with the ritual monsters being tributed to get their effects to get back from the graveyard. So it's kind of insane. I do believe this deck will probably, like, I know they haven't, I don't know when we're going to get the next point adjustment list. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I do believe Mitsu might be a part of that, just because it's not as popular in this format, but I do believe it is there, and it is something to worry about in this format, because a board wipe is still a board wipe even in Genesis format. That's probably even more powerful in Genesis format. So yeah, I do believe it could be getting up in points in the future, but it's also one of those things I can see them not doing it either if they just decide, nah, pure Mitsurugi is still fine, because again, there's not really a way to like kind of splash this into things, but if you keep trying it, eventually maybe something will stick, and then if this is splashable in this format, then this deck is definitely going to get hit. There's a reason why it'll probably get destroyed in the TCG once the next ban list comes out. So yeah, without further ado, let's actually get proper into the deck profile, shall we? So, starting off with the Mitsurugi engine kind of thing. So we're playing 3 Habakiri. Obviously, you do have to play 3 Habakiri. It's the best consistency engine in the deck. Like, this is the card that makes everything gel. Like, you do need this card at 3. There's nothing else you can do. You do need to play this card at 3. We are playing 2 Murakumo. In pure, you do want to play 2 of them, just because just in case something like DD Crow, I know something like DD Crow is popular in this format. If it hits the first one, you can just at least get the second one back, or you can, you have a second one to play with, right? You're also playing Futso as well, which also makes sense for a pure version of the deck, because Futso is absolutely ridiculous. A 34 defender that can just keep bringing back reptiles is kind of insane. So very, very good cards there. This is a pretty standard ratio when it comes to pure. I am playing 2 Wosu, so this is something that is a little bit different with Genesis. You maybe see this like as a one-of in the TCG Mitsurugi decks, but in Genesis, I think it is really valuable to play this at 2 because you don't have that much consistency. So having this, especially going second, to be able to not only treat it as a kaiju, which matters because I know there's certain things like Super Quant and even Lunalight that are playable in this format, so having a searchable kaiju in the deck is just really good, but going second, it makes your consistency a lot more better, because if you draw a lot of ritual monsters, you can still tribute the ritual monsters to get to their secondary effects to search for a Mitsurugi card, so that can kind of help you go second. But obviously going first, it's kind of just somewhat dead card, but I still think it's worth playing, especially since your non-engine isn't as good. I think Wosu just being able to be in the deck as a 2 of it is pretty nice. It's still a level 8 for like a ritual summon as well, so it's not overall the worst thing in the world, but you could probably get away with 1 if you really want to. But I do like playing Wosu at 2. We are playing 3 Armasa. Armasa, again, is just another 1-card combo, because this just gets you to Habakiri, which Habakiri, like I said, kind of just does everything for the deck. So you want to get to the 1 card that can also search for a Habakiri. So Armasa, also a 3 of for sure. I'm playing 2 Saji. I think this is probably fine. 3, the only reason why I don't like 3, because this technically isn't a 1-card combo by itself, because searching a spell, especially since you're not playing prayers, actually isn't as valuable, because you're really only going to be searching either the ritual spells, Purification, or Magatama, which isn't the greatest. So you can maybe argue even cutting this to 1, because again, it's not the greatest, but it sucks when you draw Saji as a 1 of in the deck, so that's why I like playing it as a 2 of, because if you draw Saji plus Habakiri, at least you have another Saji in deck for Habakiri to still tribute, because things like Valor and Imperm are still in this format, maybe not as popular, but still things you do have to worry about, so I think Saji at 2 is fine. I am playing 1 Kusanagi. There is like times where I do want to play 2 of this in this format, but I think 1 is probably fine to get away with still. This card, when it's tributed or normal or special summon, can just add back any Mitsurugi card from the banishment and or graveyard, which is kind of insane. And then all the small guys do have protection effects as well, which does matter in this format because of things like Final Bringer event times and stuff, but we'll talk about that interaction once we get to the non-engine. So I am playing 1 Kusanji. I think it is kind of mandatory. I do think about playing 2 from time to time, just so I have like a second one in the deck for grind matches, but I think you can probably get away with 1 and be perfectly fine. 1 Night Sword Serpent. This is just to make your ritual kind of just broken as fuck. I do like the Serpent, gets you to like a rank 4 play, which we have a couple things we could do in our rank 4s, which we get once we start talking about the extra deck. So I think Serpent is a perfectly fine card to be playing in this deck. 3 Manju, this is again just for more consistency, just because you don't have prayers in this deck, because you cannot play prayers and ritual in the same deck because they're both 60. But Manju is a pretty good secondary card you can play, because not only can it search for the ritual spell, but let's say you already have a way to the ritual spell, it can also search for the ritual monsters as well. So it's somewhat better prayers. Not really, but it is a somewhat better prayers, because it can search for anything that you're missing in your hand, but it does come at a cost, as this is only a normal summon card. You can't special summon this card whatsoever in this deck, and you know, you do run into the problem sometimes if you're just drawing too many normal summons. Again, we're playing quite a lot of normal summons in the deck, so you could run into that problem, but I do like the idea of Manju being able to search for either the rituals or the ritual spell, which is kind of insane. So I do like Manju in this deck. Maybe you can play it at 2, because I am playing a 42 card deck. You can kind of try to cut it down to 40 if you want to. But this is a very, very good card. I'm playing 2 Mitsurugi Magatama. So since you cannot play prayers in the deck, I mean you can, but you just can't play the ritual spell. But I think the ritual spell is better for the deck than prayers is. So Magatama is your other quick play that you can play in Mitsurugi. And yeah, I think you do play 2. You can maybe get away with 3, but it's not a card that does anything by itself, so I'd much rather be able to search it than have like hard drawn Magatama. So I think playing 2 is probably fine. I think 1 is probably too low, because there are the grind matches where you need to get to multiple Magatamas. Magatama is really, really good, because not only does it have this tribute effect where you can tribute a reptile to target a face-up card on the field and destroy it, but also can ritual summon as well by tributing anything, which is kind of crazy. So I think Magatama is probably worth it in that case. So I am playing 2. We are playing 3 Preparation of Rites. So this is another pointed cost card that we're playing. I think this card is probably somewhat mandatory, because again, you want to have as much consistency with the deck as possible, especially since you cannot play prayers in this deck. So pre-prep kind of just goes hand in hand. It is a 10 pointed cost card, but I do think it is worth it, because not only can you search for any of the ritual monsters, but then you search for Mirror, which is also insane. Mirror is a crazy card, especially in Genesys format, that being able to ritual summon a reptile ritual from your hand or graveyard is kind of just crazy, to be honest with you. I've seen some Genesys lists even play 2 with this card because of how good this card can be. But I am playing 1 because I am playing pre-prep, and it has the shuffle back effect, so you can always make sure like multiple pre-preps are activatable in the hand. It's searchable through multiple ways in the deck, so I don't really necessarily think you need to play more than 1, because it is a technical brick in hand if you don't draw anything with it, because it's not like Ritual, where Ritual can summon or tribute materials from deck, right? Mirror, you have to have the materials on hand or graveyard, which isn't a problem for the deck, but I don't know. I think Mirror at 1 is fine. And obviously, we're playing the 1 Mitsurugi Ritual, which is at 60, which is high, but you can get away with it just because of how crazy the Mitsurugi engine is. You only necessarily need one ritual. You don't need to play two. Yes, it does suck when this card gets banished, but you do have Kusanji to get it back for later turns. If you need to, you still have Mirror in the deck, so if this gets banished, you still have another ritual spell in the deck. But this card, I think, is just too crazy not to play. I've seen some, like very, 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 very few lists that decide to play Prayers over Ritual. In my opinion, that's just not worth it. I think Ritual is just better overall because both of its Ritual summon effects are absolutely crazy. But yeah, obviously this card's insane. You would play more if you could, but you can only play one in this deck. So yeah, that's why it's only a one. And then one Mitsurugi Great Purification, basically the Omni Negate trap card for the deck, but also its graveyard effect being absolutely crazy also helps this card really well, because it not only is an Omni Negate by tributing a level 5 or higher reptile monster, but also in the graveyard you can banish this card, target a reptile monster in your graveyard, special summon it, and if you do, tribute one other monster you control. Now, you can't activate both effects in the same turn, you can only activate one of the effects, but this is still fine, right? Like, even going second, there's plays where you can go like Wosu Tribute, somehow tribute Wosu affecting graveyard, discard Purification to get Purification in graveyard and kind of go for an OTK line, which does matter for the deck. So even though this card you might think might get sided out of like game 2s and game 3s when you know you're going second, how I like to play the deck, I do like keeping Purification for that reason. Being able to put it in the graveyard going second and help you OTK is kind of ridiculous. So not only is it an Omni Negate, but its second effect does matter as well. And now on to the non-engine portions that are playing. So that's the weird thing about Genesys format, is the non-engine. Obviously, a lot of the non-engines do have point cost to them, which matters for Mitsurugi because most of your points are already going to the Mitsurugi engine. So you kind of have to play with cards that don't have points to them. So the way I played the deck, or how I'm playing the deck right now, is playing the more quick play options that don't have points, because I like Radiant Typhoon Vision. This is basically, if you don't know what this card does, can either draw 2 cards, and then if you have a Radiant Typhoon card or a quick play spell, you can discard one of them or your entire hand if you don't. Now, since we're on a lot of quick play spells, that second effect doesn't really happen where you have to discard your entire hand, but it's basically just a draw 2. Yes, I know some players are playing something like Pot of Extravagance, but the reason why I don't like Pot of Extravagance in Mitsurugi is because of Droll and Lockbird. Now, I'll probably come back to this once we get to Droll and Lockbird back in the side deck, but the reason why I don't like playing into Droll is because I do think it is relevant in this format. Since it is a low pointed cost card that also does do a lot in this format, I think a lot of people will be on Droll and Lockbird. So I don't like the Extravagance, because if you have Extravagance and Habakiri in your hand, you kind of have to choose what to start with, because Extravagance you have to do at the start of main phase. You can't do it later on in your main phase, so you have to decide what to start with. Do you start with Extravagance, risking Droll, then losing 2 Droll, and then your Habakiri just being dead, or you start with Habakiri to help you play around Droll, but then lose the value on Extravagance because you can no longer activate Extravagance. So I decided to play the Radiant Vision Typhoon because it is a quick play. You can do this in draw phase to help you play around Droll and Lockbird. But also, if you decide to have a Habakiri and Vision in hand, you can go Habakiri Tribute Saji Effect Search Ritual. If they draw you there, then you can chain Vision to do whatever you wanted to do, because not only can you draw a card, but its second effect here is you can add a Mystical Space Typhoon from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and that's the reason why the 1 MST is in the deck, because not only is this a draw card, but it also is a searcher just for MST, because MST does matter in this format. A lot of back row being played, something like Odeon, super popular in this format. Even like Fire King, like being able to hit back row in the Fire King matchup does matter a lot as well. So being able to have a searchable MST in the deck is kind of nice. So not only is it a draw card for the deck that I think is probably better than Extravagance in my opinion, but also can search for MSTs in certain matchup as well. For the other non-engine, I am playing the DD Crow. Again, just one of the few non-pointed cost cards that does do a lot in this format. Sure, it's probably not the greatest in the world, but I do believe this card does have some staying power in this format, so I am playing it right now. Enemy Controller, I did talk about before, is a quick play card that does not have any points to it, but also gels super well with the Mitsurugi cards, because these cards like to be tributed anyways. So not only do you get to take a card your opponent controls until the end phase, but you also get to just trigger your ritual. So like being able to, summon back Murokuma from the graveyard to board wipe, kind of insane. So I think the Econ is really, really good for this deck. Book of Lunar Eclipse, a little bit of a weird card that I'm currently playing, but I do like the idea of Lunar Eclipse. The reason why I like this over the other book cards is because this doesn't have points to them. If Book of a Moon and Book of Eclipse didn't have points to them, I'd probably be playing the other ones. But since this deck has to kind of go off of no points for its non-engine, I'm going with Book of Lunar Eclipse. It's still a fine card. I really do like this card a lot. And then Final Bringer of End Times, actually one of the better quick play spells in the Genesys format in general, in my opinion. Really, 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 really good card. The reason why I initially thought this card wouldn't be that good in this deck, because you don't really want to destroy your cards on the field, but it actually kind of creates some weird rulings, which actually helps your benefit. Because let's say you have something like Kusanji on the field with, let's say, just another reptile in general, right? Because this can protect, at least all the small guys can protect if another reptile monster you control would be destroyed by a battle or card effect, you contribute this card instead. Now, importantly, that does not say by opponent's card. That just in general, if it would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you contribute this card instead. That's where Final Bringer of End Times weird ruling comes up, because you can target one monster you control and one card your opponent controls, destroy them. So basically, if you have two reptiles on the field, you can go Final Bringer of End Times, target one other ritual, and then let's say you have Kusanji on the field. Instead of destroying that reptile that you were attempting to destroy, you just tribute Kusanji instead, which lets you trigger the effect of Kusanji, because when it's tributed, it gets to add back from the graveyard. Now that goes for all the small guys. So let's say you do Saji, you can search for a spell, and then Armasa can search for a monster in that case. But that is kind of the weird thing about this, because it doesn't destroy both of them. It just says destroy them. So Final Bringer of End Times resolves as much as possible. So Kusanji just protects the card that you targeted off of Final Bringer of End Times, which lets you trigger the small guys. This matters more in the grind match than it is like attempting to go second and break a field, but that is a very important ruling to know with Final Bringer of End Times and the smaller Mitsurugi guys, that you can target another reptile, then just tribute them off the field to protect that reptile to get their effects in graveyard, because they were tributed to protect that reptile. So kind of an important thing to know, but a very overall good card. I wasn't thinking it was going to be that great in this deck specifically, but it actually ends up being really, really good for this deck because of that small little ruling. So I am playing Final Bringer of End Times, and then obviously MST as well. Now on to the extra deck. This can honestly be, we have a lot of room in this extra deck, to be honest with you. As you can see, this is somewhat like a Pot of Extravagance type of extra deck right now, because I was playing Pot of Extravagance for a little bit, but obviously since I'm no longer playing Extravagance, I could kind of switch up the extra deck if I wanted to. But let's say Exciton Knight, kind of a mainstay. You kind of have to play this card in this deck. It helps you go second. It's no points whatsoever, which is crazy to me that this card has no points, because this card is absolutely ridiculous. But Exciton Knight, a mandatory mainstay. Same thing with Tornado Dragon, just another rank 4 that you can kind of not only like go second and help break like spell traps, but going first is not bad to end on, because there's a lot of like things like Fire King that needs their island to resolve and stuff. So it could be a nice interruption piece as well. Giant Hand is just a nice negation with 2 level 4s, because if you have like Serpent plus another level 4, which does happen a lot with your turn 1 combo, you can just make a Giant Hand, which is just a monster negate, which is pretty good for you, because again, you don't have link monsters like IP or anything in this format, so Giant Hand isn't that bad. Evil Swarm Nightmare, the reason why I'm not playing 2 of this is because it actually doesn't come up as much in this deck, because you don't have Prayers. Prayers would be the way you can get to Evil Swarm Nightmare, but since you don't have Prayers, it's actually super hard for you to get to Evil Swarm Nightmare. You kind of have to like draw a ritual spell plus a way, like you have to have a ritual monster and ritual spell already in hand. So basically, you cannot trigger Habikiri's effect to start your combo. Like, let's say you draw like Manju plus like a ritual monster, then you can maybe get to the Evil Swarm Nightmare. And that's not even correct. I think you have to start with Saji or Amasa to do it, but that's what I'm trying to say. It's actually like not as easy as you think it is to get the Nightmare, because you don't have Prayers. So that's where I'm only playing one of it, because it's not as likely for you to actually make this card. It still does come up, so that's the reason why you're playing it, but it's not as likely for you to make it in this deck. I'm playing number 80, Rhapsody in Berserk is just another generic rank 4 that does do stuff like target a card in your opponent's graveyard, banish that target, and you can only use this effect up to twice per turn. So, like, that does matter in certain matchups, so that's why it's in the extra. Like, against, like, Fire King, being able to, like, banish their runics from graveyard and stuff isn't actually that bad. Like, so I'm perfectly fine with this card in the extra deck. Dingirsu, very important rank 8 that you do have to play. It's a non-targeting, non-destruction removal card for you. So, if this card is XYZ summon, you get to either send a card your opponent controls or attach a banished machine monster you control or from your banished area. Obviously, that second effect is never going to come up because we're not playing any machines. But the first effect, when it's special summon to send a card to your opponent's send a card your opponent controls to the graveyard, does matter because it's non-targeting, non-destruction removal. So it's really, really good. If you're playing something like Zeus, it also has like a protection effect, so you can like protect it and then make a Zeus on top of it. Obviously, we can't play Zeus because that's a 20-point cost card, and obviously we can't use that for our points. So, but Ding is still a very nice card. I'm playing Garunix. It's just another 2 level 8s that could do something at board wipes and also can detach a material to target a spell trap you're on the field and destroy it. And if it do, this card gains 500 attack. So it could matter, but not as important. I'm playing Failgrant as just another rank 8 kind of thing you can do to make more interruptions on your end field if you want to. Not necessarily the greatest, but something you could do. It doesn't cost any points, and it is an imperm by technicality. Yes, it does make the monster unaffected, but you'll take that if it means negating something very important, right? And then I'm playing Garua, Aggregator, and Maolong. This is obviously for the side decked Ultimate Slayer, so that's the only reason why these are in here. Obviously, we can't play Entis because Entis is a pointed card. So, right, if I'm not mistaken, Entis isn't a point. Let me make sure I'm not talking out of my ass. It's 7. It's not much, but we already took 90 points to play with our engine, so that is quite a lot for us. So we're playing Guru instead. Guru is still fine. It's a draw 1 card. Aggregator is the best one to send for XYZ because it also negates. And then Maolong is also not bad to send as a synchro because you can target a face-up card your opponent controls, return it back to the hand, so it makes more interruption. You guys also play like a fossil, the fossil stuff, these guys. If you want to, instead of Garua, you can play like, if you want like interruption off the Ultimate Slayer, you can play like Fossil Warrior Skull Knight, which in the graveyard can banish itself, target a monster on the field, destroy it. Or play Skull Wagon, I think it is. Skull Wagon, yeah. So you can banish this card, target a spell trap, and destroy it. So if you want to play those instead of Garua, still not bad because those aren't pointed cards. So I'm not against that. So that is something you could do as well. So that's the side deck for Ultimate Slayer. We're playing Gordian Slicer because, again, the extra deck isn't as important. So if it means board breaking with Gordian Slicer, you're still perfectly fine with it. 3 Cosmics for the matchups that matter for this, and also just another like extra MST as well, just because I had another slot, so I just threw MST in there. I'm playing 2 Droll and Lockbird. I would love to somehow main deck this card, but I think it's fine in the side because it does fuck you if you're going first. Droll does somewhat fuck you because you want since you don't have prayers, you need a Murakumo to revive itself by the tribute effect, unless you have Futsu, obviously. But that needs to search for that effect to happen. So Droll could fuck you over in that scenario. So that's why I'm deciding to side it instead of main it, because I prefer to Droll going second than going first. And then I'm playing Iron Thunder as well, because this is basically just like Solemn Judgment, which is fine with you as well. So that is my side deck. Another card you could be playing in this deck as well if you really want to, and it is something I tried, is the new Dogmatica card. Dogmatica, this dude, the Thunderbolt one. This card is actually really, really good. During the main phase, if a monster is special summoned from the extra deck is on the field, quick effect, special summon this card. And then if this card is special summoned from your hand, you can set 1 Dogmatica trap, and it can be activated this turn while your opponent controls a Fusion Synchro XYZ link with 2,500 or more attack. Now, in the TCG, it's not the greatest, but I think in this format, this format may be slow enough where Thunderbolt could matter. Being able to punishment, even if it means not just setting punishment, and then, sure, if it's not activatable, you'll take it because you can just draw for turn, activate punishment, and go off from there. Mitsurugi is not a deck that doesn't really care for its extra deck, so you don't necessarily care about being locked in the extra deck with Dogmatica Punishment. So it is something to think about, as a hand trap. If you want to play this, it doesn't cost any points, and it does have, removal kind of aspect. Now, you do kind of have to change up your extra deck if you're going to do that, like the Fossil guys would probably be in this extra deck if you are playing with the Dogmatica. A guy in your in your deck. So that is something to think about. This is something I really want to try. Because it is at level 8, it also makes it where Magatama could tribute the Thunderbolt to summon out a Mitsurugi monster from hand as well. Something to really think about. So I think this has a lot of things. Now, I just don't know how good this is in this format. I haven't done enough testing with it. But I think Thunderbolt could have potential in this deck. So it's something to think about as well. So that is going to be it for the deck profile. I know I did ramble a lot there. I just kind of want to explain some theory stuff, why I'm playing certain ratios and stuff like that. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more content on the channel. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.